see you out there.
Thank you very much. Good job. All right. So those are the two big announcements. Those are announcements we're not going to have all the time, but now I want to model for you something that we want to do a little bit more regularly. And so poor Christine's she's like flipping all over the place, trying to find out where she's supposed to be. I think it's before this. I want to talk about coffee maybe. Is that the first slide? Okay. So Teddy's going to pay very close attention because Teddy's going to be somebody I think that's going to be doing this. All right? So what we're going to do, I'm just going to tell you. Like, you guys are all part of the family here. I'm not going to keep this secret from you. So here's what I'm modeling for you right now. And so if you think you can do this, you're probably right. If you think you do this, this is something, just talk to me. This is something, a way you can get involved. All right? So the first thing I'm going to tell you is after the service, don't rush off. Grab another coffee, share your story. There's a reason we put out coffee. Actually, we're out of coffee. I don't know if anybody feels like making some more, but beautiful. Look at that, both of you jumping up. But there's a reason that we put the coffee out. We want you to linger. There's something really important and very special about sharing each other's stories. Because one of the things, I'm going to not preach here, and so you don't have to do this part here, but one of the things the enemy loves to do is isolate. He wants you to think you're the only one going through what you're going through, that you are evil and dark and broken, and that nobody will be able to relate to you. But the truth of the matter is, you share your story with one person, and they share back, and all of a sudden you realize, well, hang on, I'm not in this alone. One of the things I love about CR, and actually coming back to CR, there's two more things that I forgot to talk about. My first exposure to CR was the 9th anniversary of Celebrate Recovery in Maple Ridge. And the guy who was the speaker, he came from Broadway, I can't remember his name, Pastor Paul? Paul. And Paul is a normie like me. He doesn't have a story of drug and alcohol addiction. And he got into Celebrate Recovery. He's like, well, how am I going to do this? And God revealed to him that everybody is recovering from something. And he shared that his thing was shame, and that he'd been battling shame, and he's in recovery from shame, that he's been in recovery for his whole life. So that's one thing. The other thing, I love that you mentioned the anonymity, because I have to make a declaration here. We should probably put a slide up, just so you know, if you come up here, you are being streamed live. You are being filmed, and so you are losing your anonymity. So as much as when we invite you up to give your testimonies and things like that, and we want you to share, those are important things, we also want you to know that this is being streamed to our page, all right? That's just something we need to make sure that you know of. All right, so don't rush off. Also, the reason you shouldn't rush off is there are clothes available. Carolee's gotten a little crazy, and she's reached out to people, and people have gotten a little crazy, and we have been blessed. So there's a ton of clothes out again tonight, but there are more to come. You can check our basement, and you will see that there is more to come, so she's kind of been pacing us. But please realize this is something, there are people that are praying for this group, and there are people that love you, even if they're not here on a Saturday night, and they want you to have these things, okay? And so please don't be shy. I just want to thank Bobby. Bobby's kind of the instigator of all this stuff. One day he just showed up with some clothes, and I don't know if he realized this is going to turn into an every week thing, but I mean, Bob Smith, that was totally anonymous. All right, next page, please. So don't rush off. Next thing is nothing. There is something. Okay, I did want to mention, sometimes it gets confusing about what SNL is, okay? This is kind of like our church, but you belong to something bigger. SNL is a ministry of Northridge Church, and Northridge meets all weekend long. We've got youth groups on Friday. I know you've been. Youth group on Friday. We meet here Saturday, Sunday morning. We have a 10 o'clock service. We have a Spanish service at 1 o'clock, and young adults meet every second Sunday night. So you're a part of something bigger, and we just want you to know that. Next slide, please. Oh, yeah, and if you want to learn more, you can go to our website, nrchurch.ca. Is there anything more? I couldn't understand that. No. No, I'm going to preach a little bit in between. Oh, yeah, these are some more things. we want to be a little bit more intentional about identifying and being thankful for. And so if you're watching from home, other Hope for Freedom people, we've had this really all started with a partnership with Hope for Freedom. And yeah, you can clap for that. And we're really thankful. If they weren't sending the men, we wouldn't still be doing this. Just call a spade a spade. And it's grown into something even bigger and more beautiful. But we're really thankful, and we love partnering with Hope for Freedom Society. The other partnership we have, we already mentioned today, we are partnering with Celebrate Recovery. These are the local groups that we want to be a blessing to, we want to partner with. Northridge also, I don't have slides for this, but we also partner internationally with a child sponsorship program in Costa Rica and a full-on school that has been invented in Nicaragua with Amparo International. But locally, CR and Hope for Freedom are our people. Is there anything else? Oh, if you're allowed to have a phone, give us a like. So like the SNL page. This is also a Bobby thing. He told me to tell you this. Follow us. Actually, is that even a separate thing? If you like, are you automatically following? Like and follow and check in. Yeah. So, and I'll tell you, Bobby taught me why it's important for you to check in. Because if you check in, somebody who thinks you're cool is going to think, whoa, what are they doing on a Saturday? I'm going to check that out, all right? So that's our Facebook thing. Is there anything else? Or do I actually start preaching now? I'm going to start preaching now. Whew. Okay, what time is it? 7:30. 7:30? What? 7:40. 7:40? Okay, that's not as bad as I thought it was. Pardon me? Oh, no, this is here. I just fit it. Here, this is my water thing. Oh, wow, double cup so it doesn't get too hot. All right. There you go. So now we transition. Remember I told you I look up at the notes to remind myself what I'm preaching on. I think I've got it again now. We're back into our iconic series where we're talking about the most iconic figure in human history. Remember this Jesus that we constantly bring up over and over again. He is literally the hinge point in history. When you went to elementary school, you learned about the dinosaurs, and they told you it happened whatever year BC. That is measuring the time before Jesus. And now we live in 2022 AD. That's measuring 2022 years after Jesus. He is literally the hinge point of history. So important is he. It sounded kind of like Yoda. So important is he. So everything that happened before is BC. Everything is after is AD. All right, we're going to be in John again. And remember John, when he preached. Oh, sorry, you've done great. This is part 10. This is a story about Jesus healing. And I'm going to go in a completely different place in response to something that Sean taught us today. This part 10 is about Jesus healing, and we're going to hear from John again. Remember that John is one of 4 gospel authors, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. All 4 of them wrote about the life of Jesus. And John was especially close to Jesus. Like he had 12 disciples, but Jesus and John were very, very close. There was a brotherhood, not literally a brotherhood, but there was a brotherhood between the two of them. And John wrote in a way he wanted you to know Jesus and to love everything about him. He almost wrote as a fan of Jesus, wanting you to be a fan of Jesus. All right? And so he's writing this account today, and this is a story of a healing at the side of a pool. And we're going to begin in John 5, verses 1 to 5. It goes like this. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool in Aramaic called Bethesda, which has 5 roofed colonnades. In these lay a multitude of invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed. One man was there who had been an invalid for 38 years. Let's pause there, please, Christine. So a couple of things we can note from here. I'm going to do a little bit of Bible study with you here. The first part is that Jesus was following Jewish tradition. He was traveling to Jerusalem for a Jewish feast. Now, something that the Jewish people were and continue to be really, really good at is remembering. My wife and I were, this is going to sound sad, but it was amazing. We were just at a memorial today. A friend of my father-in-law's passed away. He was 75 years old, rock and roll musician, and just a really sweet guy. And the tributes to him were beautiful. You guys, one of the reasons it's worth living well is to have people say great things about you when you're gone. And this is one of those things that happened. But the theme of the memorial, the reoccurring word was remember. And he made references to two specific times near the end of Jesus' life. First, where Jesus, remember when he was doing communion, he said, "Do this in remembrance of me. Remember me." But then later that day when Jesus was hanging on the cross, remember one of the convicted criminals, he had one on either side of him. They were also being executed. One of them realized who Jesus was and begged Jesus, "Remember me." And Jesus says, "Today you're going to be with me in paradise." And so that theme of remembrance, the Jews are really good at remembering. And they established traditions that would literally remind them of things that God has done. Okay? Passover was one of the feasts and one of the things they would celebrate, and it would be remembering a miracle event in Jewish history. And there's more to that, but I'm just going to keep going here. Now, I'm still going to stay in that first part of the text, though. So you need to understand the geography here. So Jesus walked into Bethesda, and there's this pool. And I don't know if any of you have noticed this, actually. It must be in a different section of the thing. But there's this pool, and this pool is known for something special. In fact, let's keep reading, and maybe we'll see it here. Verse 6 says, "When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already been there a long time, he said to him, 'Do you want to be healed?' The sick man answered him, 'Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. And while I am going another steps down before me.' Jesus said to him, 'Get up, take up your bed, and walk.' And at once the man was healed. He took up his bed and walked." Let's pause there. This is weird. If you ask me, this is weird. There, at this pool of Bethesda, there is this pool, and there is this, and I had to dig a little deeper. There are these different biblical commentators who have commented on whether this might just be local urban legend, or if this was really something that God was doing at this time. One translation talks about how an angel would come down once a day and stir up the water. And if the first person to get into the water when the water was stirred up would be healed. Now, to me, that sounds very unlike different things, or it sounds unlike the way God works to have an angel do that. But I haven't figured all that out. All I know is this. If we go to the next slide just for a second, I've got some points. These are some different ways that Jesus has healed. Some were healed by a purified pot of stew. That's in 2 Kings. Naaman was healed by washing in the Jordan River. By having a bath, he was healed. One was healed by touching the bones of Elisha. So his dead bones, they touched the bones and they were healed. Some were healed when the shadow of Peter fell upon them. Peter was doing ministry, and just his shadow went and kind of touched them, and they were healed. And some were healed when Paul's handkerchiefs were laid upon them. If you go back to the slide before, please, Christine. This is all to say God's going to do what God's going to do. So honestly, I don't know where I sit theologically as to whether or not this was just kind of an urban legend, or maybe God was honoring the faith of the people who were honoring Him and giving glory to Him for the healing. I don't know, but that's really not the point. The point is that God was doing healing, but Jesus saw this person who was not able to get into the pool in time. He was literally losing the race because he was too crippled to get into the water. He was losing the race and could never be the first one in the water, and so never got healed. So what does Jesus do? He says, get up, take up your bed, and walk. This sounds, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words. And it sounds so simple. Okay? If I tell Katie, get up and walk out the door, she can do that. Her legs work. Okay? It's a simple exercise. This is a man who has been crippled, who cannot walk. I don't even know if he could roll down the hill into the water fast enough. And Jesus says, get up, grab your bed, walk. And with those words, he was completely healed. And again, sometimes we read stories, and this is where sometimes my brain can kind of go to Tolkien's Middle Earth, and it almost feels like a Lord of the Rings movie. And it feels surreal that somebody who can't walk is instantly healed just because of some words that Jesus has spoken over them. But we need to realize there is a place on this planet. This is a real place. These are 2 real people who had an encounter, and Jesus just spoke the words over him, and he was instantly healed. I'll tell you what I want you to hear from this. Jesus is Lord of everything. There is nothing that isn't under his domain. So, for example, I watch cops and robber movies sometimes, and remember the old days, I don't know if this is still true, actually probably some of you might know this, if you break the law in one state and you escape to another state, you can be safe. Is that true? Is that still true? I don't know. But because there's jurisdiction, right? Or we know definitely from country to country. If I commit a crime in Canada and I manage to get to Italy, unless they, what's the word? Extradite me and send me home. No, extradite, is that word? Is that the word? Okay. You're laughing at me. My knowledge of law is limited, okay? But unless, I don't think that's the word. Expedite. Extradite. Expedite means to go faster. Thank you, Patrick. There you go. Yeah, they want to extradite me in an expedited way because they really want me gone fast. Okay. Long story short, there's a limit to the legal power that the people of Canada have. They can't just go to Italy and get me. I'm safe from them. I can go break the law in Italy now, as long as Italy doesn't cooperate with Canada to send me home. There are legal and judicial limits. But where Jesus is concerned, there is nothing that is outside of his power. Nothing escapes what he is Lord over. He is King of kings. He is Lord of all the lords. Going back to Lord of the Rings, he's the one Lord to rule them all, right? He is over it all. And so when he speaks to a person and says, get up, take up your bed, and walk, he is demonstrating that the laws of nature, like if I've got a busted leg, there is something natural that needs to happen for me to be healed. Okay, it needs to be split. I'm going to go into medical terminology and screw it all up. It needs to be splinted and braced properly so that it can heal, so your body can do what it naturally does. But Jesus is Lord over nature. And this is a principle. I'm going to do a quick little science lesson for you here. Sometimes, we get to the question, who created God? Where's Kevin? Is Kevin here today? I didn't recognize you're not wearing glasses today. This is a question Kevin would ask, like, who created God, right? If the laws of nature say that everything, it doesn't just happen from nothing. This water did not come from nowhere. Jessika poured it in here. She's the creator of this water. Well, she didn't create the water. I hope she did. Everything has to have a beginning. And so the natural question, well, who created God? See, the laws of nature say that everything has to have a beginning. But God is supernatural. He is not bound by the laws of nature. He created the laws of nature. He is outside of that. He is supernatural. Those laws don't apply to him. That is why Jesus could walk on the water. He can do the miraculous because he's not bound to the laws of this land. And so when he speaks the words, be healed, he can do a medical miracle with just his words because he has this supernatural power because he is God. Does that make sense? Okay, I better keep going. So 2 slides from here. Oh, look at that. Well done. So this is now in verse 9. Now that day was the Sabbath. This is going to seem so ridiculous to you, but we're going to read it anyways. Now that day was the Sabbath. So the Jews said to the man who had been healed, it's the Sabbath. It's not lawful for you to take up your bed. So what he was doing is he was carrying his bedding and he was walking. Now, according to Jewish law, there was literally a law that you were not allowed to work. And so this was seen, what he was doing was seen as working. He was lugging his bedding and he was walking. And how he was getting in trouble from the Jews. Not just the Jews, but the religious, really uptight religious Jews. But he answered them, the man who healed me, that man said to me, take up your bed and walk. They asked him, well, who is this man who said to you, take up your bed and walk? Because now they want to get him in trouble. He shouldn't have told him to do this thing on the Sabbath. Now the man who had been healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had withdrawn, as there was a crowd in place. So this guy who had been healed from being crippled didn't even get the name of the guy who healed him. Next slide, please. Afterward, Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, so they reunite, and he says, see, you are well. Sin no more, that nothing worse may happen to you. The man went away and told the Jews that it was Jesus who had healed him. And this was why the Jews were persecuting Jesus, because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. I'm going to pause there before I answer that, finish that last line. This was starting to create tension. They realized this Jesus, who's already causing them some problems, there's this stirring up of this, a following of Jesus. He's starting to get fame, and there's starting to be murmurs that he is claiming to be the Messiah. And these Jews, they've been waiting for the Messiah for centuries. The Messiah, the one who's going to come to save, has been prophesied. They've heard about this one who is going to come and save the Jewish people. And now they're hearing this Jesus might be claiming that he's that guy. And now they're hearing that Jesus is telling people to work or walk on the Sabbath. And so these Jews are starting to whisper to each other like, this Jesus is a growing problem. And we're going to see that tension throughout the rest of the life of Jesus. Last line here says, but Jesus answered them, my Father is working until now, and I am working. I'm actually not going to go into that. I think that's the last line. Okay. I want to go back to this idea of healing. Now, I don't know about you, but I've had different experiences with healing. I've sat and watched TV, and I watch some of these televangelists do their thing, and it just, to me, honestly, sometimes it just looks weird. It looks weird. It looks fake sometimes to me, and I can be really judgy about it. I've learned to kind of calm down because you know what? God's going to do what he's going to do. He's going to use different people different ways. But then I've also seen, and I've kind of told this story here before, I've seen a man who was dead come back to life. And yeah, I prayed, but I didn't pray anything special. There wasn't any big ceremonial moment. I wasn't particularly highly spiritual at the time. It was a quick prayer. I didn't actually get into my prayer. I started at the beginning of a prayer. I was just like, I remembered, why am I not praying to God? And it all lined up that moment. This man who had been dead on the train tracks for 20 minutes, half an hour, was alive. So I've seen the miraculous happen. And I know in my heart, because I've seen the evidence of God's miraculous power, I know that he heals. And more than that, to me it's very dramatic. Well, Jessica could tell you a story. We've been talking for a while now about getting you to tell your testimony. I don't want to give the plot away. Jessica literally had her leg that was shorter from birth extended miraculously. Being prayed for, yeah, you can move that. And so she's got a testimony of being physically healed. And those are incredible moments, but you know what? The healing starts with a hurt. Whether you fall off your bike and bust your leg, or whether you were abused as a child, you got a crummy dad or a crummy mom, it starts with a hurt. And whatever the hurt is, Jesus can heal. Okay? And you know what? Tonight, I want to be available, and we want to pray for you. If there's something physical where you need healing, we'd love to lay hands on you, and we want to pray for miraculous healing. But we don't want to limit it to that. If there's something that has been broken and hurt in your life, and maybe it's led to a habit or a hang-up, and you need freedom from that, we'd love to pray for you for that. And the reason we'd love to pray for that is because we believe that we serve the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. What we believe is that when we have, actually, you know what? I want to talk about that first. Let me tell you about the greatest miracle. The greatest miracle of all is that I was destined for death. I've sinned a couple times in my life. Actually, I've probably sinned a couple of times today. And the Bible says that everybody has sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Okay? There's nobody that is without sin. And if you're sitting there going, yeah, no, I have never sinned, I'm calling BS right now. Okay? So everybody has sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Bible also says the wages of sin is death. Your payment, what you deserve for your sin, is death. And so I was on a pathway for death. And if I wasn't saved from that journey into death, then when my body dies, when the end of my life comes, I am going to spend eternity separated from God. We call that hell. That's the journey that every one of us is on. And we're not just kind of walking that way. The devil is over here, and he's putting every flashy, beautiful thing luring you this way. He wants you dead. He wants to kill you. He wants to see you eternally separated from God. But the second part of that verse, the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life. If there's a greater miracle than being taken from eternal death and being given eternal life, I do not know what it is. Today, we were at a memorial for our friend Richard Gettle. It was a party. And that sounds really weird, but it was a party because his body here on earth was broken. He was suffering from dementia. He was 75 years old. He didn't even recognize his family. It was no good life for him here on earth. But we have a confidence that right now he is with the Father, that he has a perfect body, and he is in a perfect place with the Father. That is the ultimate miracle. I want to gather around with you. I'm going to confess another thing that we're going through as a church. A very good friend of mine, somebody I've known for over 35 years, may lose his life tonight. He's been battling cancer for a while, and it's just really gone downhill. And he's too young. He's only a few years older than me. He's got 6 kids. I don't know how many grandkids. Lots of grandkids. And he's a good man. He's a beautiful man. And he could lose his life tonight. And I want to pray. And I don't care if it's a selfish prayer. God invites us to pray. I don't care if it's selfish to want him to live, to want him to be healed from cancer. That's what I'm going to pray tonight. But if God doesn't heal him tonight, and if he passes tonight, it's a beautiful, miraculous thing to know that he is with the Father. that he has been completely healed and he's in heaven with the Father. Okay, I'm going to invite the worship team to come up. I think I've got a couple more things to say, though. Here's what we're going to do for the rest of the evening. We're going to respond in worship. We've got one more song we're going to play. After that song is over, I think I saw Allison made more coffee. There you go. So there's a little more coffee. I'm going to come up after the song. I'm going to give you some closing announcements. And it's going to seem a little awkward, but I'm going to give you those closing announcements. And then there's going to be an opportunity for you to be prayed for. Or maybe an opportunity for you to pray for somebody else. And so we'll just kind of keep this space up here available. If you want prayer, go for it. Otherwise, I'll tell you the other options in just a bit. So let's stand.